lovely people, my name is Nicole and today I want to talk about Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is the most recent book in the Dark Artifices series, which is her third series, I think, about Shadowhunters in the Shadowhunter Chronicles world. If you have not picked up this series yet, then you might want to go pick up Lady Midnight first. But in general, the series follows Emma Carstairs and her parabatai Julian Blackthorne, who live in the Los Angeles Institute, and they have been sort of raising Julian's siblings since the events of the Mortal War back at the end of the Mortal Instruments series. And they're dealing with their parabatai bond, their sort of familiar relations, and then also some new Shadowhunter related drama that's come up. The first section of this review will be completely spoiler free, so if you have not had a chance to pick up Lord of Shadows yet, which you totally should, don't worry, I'll let you know when I'm about to get spoilery. Overall, I absolutely loved this. Like, with all of Cassie's books, they were amazing, and I am so in love with like all the characters, and it broke my heart a million times over, but it also was fun and funny, and there's so many good romantic moments and friendship moments, and it's just such a joy to read her books. I love them so much. I give it 5 stars, as I have given, I think, all of her books. She's one of my all-time favorite authors, and this book is no different. I have really been enjoying the Dark Artifices series. I think that it's really interesting to get a different take on the Shadowhunter world, because in the previous 2 series, Mortal Instruments and Infernal Devices, we were reading from the point of view of protagonists who hadn't grown up in the Shadowhunter world. They were new to the world, they were just being introduced to it, like we as readers were. But now we're reading mostly from Emma's point of view, although there were a lot of different points of view in this book, which I actually really enjoyed. But now that we're reading from Emma's point of view, we're reading from the point of view of someone who knows what it's like to be a Shadowhunter. She's used to this world. She grew up as a Shadowhunter. That's a really interesting, different point of view to get. But like I said, there are a lot of points of view in this book, so pretty much no matter who your favorite character is, it's not unlikely that you'll get their points of view. I think my personal favorites were, obviously, as usual, Emma's point of view was amazing. There were a couple times we got Julian's point of view, which was great, and then I absolutely loved Kit's point of view. I did not expect to love Kit as much as I do at the end of this book, but oh my god, he's amazing. He's kind of a fun character because, like, you know, Clary or Tessa before him, he's just now coming into the Shadowhunter world. I mean, he's known about it, but for the most part, he grew up in the mundane world, and so he gets to be kind of a voice of the audience a little bit, which is a lot of fun. There are a number of times where he calls out Shadowhunters for some of their sort of backwards ways, some of their lack of knowledge of social or political context, and just his emotional journey and relationships that he develops throughout this book were really great to read about. I mean, as usual, pretty much all the characters I love, and we got to know a lot of the other sort of side characters that we learned about in Lady Midnight, but we didn't really get to know all that much. In Lady Midnight, we got to know a lot more about them in here. Like, we got to know a lot more about Diana, about Kit. Like I said, we get a lot from Kit, and it's amazing, and I love him so much. We get a lot more character development for Ty and for Livy. The events of the previous book kind of shook everyone in the series to their core, and a lot of this book is them responding to that and reacting to that. Whether that be Emma and Julian's relationship, whether that be the decisions that Emma made in regards to Mark at the end of Lady Midnight. I never promised this would be spoiler free for Lady Midnight, so, you know, if you haven't read Lady Midnight, why are you watching a review of Lord of Shadows? But you know, Lady Midnight left off on kind of a cliffhanger when it came to Emma and Mark, and that's definitely explored in this a lot. I feel like there's just a lot of really good family dynamic in this, which is one of my favorite parts about this series. The Blackthorns are amazing. I'm trying to think what else I can say about it that's spoiler free, but honestly, I just have so many spoilery emotions that I want to get out. But I will say that there are a lot of old faves that come up in this, whether that be from previous series or from the previous book that I didn't know whether we would see again. There's a lot of exploration of things that were just kind of taken for granted in the previous book that weren't really explored, and I just really love all the ways that the relationships developed in this. There's also a lot, like, maybe a little heavy-handed political commentary in this. Some things that hit a little close to home when it came to current political situations, past political situations, Cassie actually really recently just wrote a very interesting, really long Tumblr post about social dynamics in the Shadowhunter world and the marginalization of downworlders versus of people of color or LGBT people or people of differing religions, things like that, and how the sort of downworlder Shadowhunter dynamic isn't meant to be a representative or a stand-in for a specific power dynamic or marginalization dynamic. Like, they're not a stand-in for a real-life marginalized group. They are an exploration of marginalization through a new lens. So a lot of different marginalized groups can sort of see parallels to their own experience and their own marginalizations in the experience and the discussion of downworlders in this series, but it's not meant to replace any of them because all those social dynamics still exist in this, because it takes place in our world with our social dynamics. And so the downworlder discussion is just kind of added on top to this. The downworlder discussion of downworlder rights, especially when it comes to Shadowhunters being prejudiced towards downworlders, is something that's existed in the books since the very beginning, since City of Bones, but it's really, really delved into in this series, and I am very much okay, I don't know if enjoying is the right word. It's very frustrating to read about it because it has so many strong parallels to real life events, but it's also really, really interesting to read about. And as a sort of plot line, I'm enjoying it, even if as just events, they're very frustrating. There are a number of new characters introduced in this that were kind of direct parallels to real life events and people that are so frustrating, that I hate so much. But you know, literature makes us think. Literature explores uncomfortable ideas, and this does this in such a wonderful way. Honestly, reading this book just makes me want to like get up and go to protests and fight for people's rights and fight against current, potentially going in fascist directions administrations that may or may not be happening in my country right now. I love the way that Cassie's written all of this, and I'm okay, I need to go into spoilers now because I have so much to say and I don't want to spoil anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, so I'm just gonna warn you guys right now, I'm about to get spoilery. Like I said, I loved this book. I highly recommend it. I think it gets a lot more sort of morally complicated, socially complicated than a lot of her other series have gotten, and it's just so good. And as always, her characters and the relationships are so incredible and just make you feel for them. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Highly recommend literally anything Cassandra Clare has ever written. But like I said, I'm gonna get spoilery now. So if you have not read the book, go, leave now, come back once you have. Okay, so for spoilery, you know, let's just jump right into the deep end. Talk about some of the deaths that happened in this book. Cassie's done this thing for the past couple books where she'll like warn us about how many deaths are gonna be in the books. That's the people that like we knew going into the books. And it's terrifying because knowing that there's going to be deaths is one thing. I think you can pretty much go into any Cassie Clare book and know there's going to be people dying. That's just the world that they live in. The Shadowhunters world is very violent. But when she tells you, hey, 4 characters you already know who are like named characters, not just random one-off, they saw this random fairy with blue hair characters, are gonna die. That means that like I went through the entire book just like counting down in my head, and the first 2 deaths happened within the first like 300 pages, and the next 2 deaths didn't happen until the last like 20, which was the most stressful 500 pages of my entire life. Cause you had John Cartwright die, which, you know, I read Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, so like I knew who he was, but I was never really emotionally attached to him, so that wasn't a big deal. Then you had Arthur Blackthorne die. Again, like obviously I knew him from Lady Midnight, and I felt for him when it came to, I wish that there was more that the Shadowhunters would do to help him with his mental illness. And you know, he was a Blackthorn, he was a part of the family, obviously, like, I cared about him, but I wasn't super emotionally attached to him again. And the way he died, he sacrificed himself to save his family, which is such a Blackthorn thing to do. But then you have to wait for another like 400 or 500 pages just knowing someone else is gonna die, 2 more someones are gonna die. And then I got to the end, to that last council scene, and I'm like, fuck. I was fairly confident Cassie wouldn't kill Emma or Julian because she's never killed a main character before. Like, she wouldn't kill Clary or Jace in the Mortal Instruments. She wouldn't kill Tessa or Will or Jem in the Infernal Devices. Those are the main characters, and I don't think she'd, at least not in this series, I don't think that she'd kill one of the main characters. And I was also fairly confident, not like 100% confident, not nearly as confident as I was about Emma and Jules, but I was fairly confident she wouldn't kill either Kit or Ty, because I know what it looks like when Cassie's writing a romance. And I know what it looks like when Cassie's building up to something, and those two are building up to something. I am 100% convinced that they are going to develop a relationship because they are freaking adorable together. And like, okay, I'll go into Kitty later. Can we just appreciate the fact that their ship name is Kitty? Anyway, I was pretty sure that she wouldn't kill them because I feel like she has future plans for them. But I was so nervous that one of the other Blackthorn kids was gonna die. And I was pretty sure it wasn't gonna be Tabby because Tabby had already been threatened and gotten pretty close to death a few times already. So that really leaves like Drew, Livy, and then Mark and Helen. But Mark and Helen, again, we haven't seen Helen a lot. So like, why would she kill a character we haven't seen in, you know, a book and a half? And Mark, it felt like there was so much more plot for him. And then so that leaves Drew and Livy. And Drew we hadn't seen a lot of in this book, although the parts of Drew that we did get in the book were interesting. I liked her sort of discussion of wanting to feel included with her siblings and feeling like she was always just dismissed because she was too young, even though she's like at the point that the rest of her siblings were when they started really getting involved. I thought that was a really interesting discussion and sort of a commentary, a little bit maybe of a meta commentary on how Drew wasn't really in this book a lot, but the little bits of Drew that we did get I loved, especially her burgeoning friendship with Jamie. That was fun. But we didn't really see her all that much in this book, and we'd gotten really attached to Livy this book. And I'm like, fuck. Because you know, if Cassie announces that there's gonna be death, she doesn't kill people off for no reason. And at least one of them is going to hurt. And is going to have a really big impact on the rest of the characters. And don't get me wrong, Robert Lightwood dying is very sad, just because I feel like he's made so much progress when it comes to, you know, accepting Alec, and he and Alec had finally gotten close again, and that was wonderful. You know, he was gonna help Emma and Jules with their parabatai problem, and then he's just gone. But narratively it makes sense because he was the one who was sort of gonna fix everything, and now he's gone and shit gets crazy, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for shit to get crazy. And then Livy. I don't quite 100% understand what happened with Annabelle at the end there, why she suddenly got so like intense and murdery. As soon as it happened, I just like, I had to stop reading because I literally could not see the page because I was crying. Ty's reaction and everything, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And reading that, I know next book, which unfortunately we're not getting for another like 2 years. So frustrating. I get it because like she has a lot of other books coming out in the meantime, but oh, it's so frustrating. But I just know in the next book, I feel like Jules and Ty, we're definitely gonna see both of them mourn, but I think they might go in very different directions. I think Ty is going to shut down a bit and need Kit to be there for him and be a friend to him, and that will bring them closer together and they'll be really supportive and adorable. And then Jules, I'm honestly a little scared for what Jules is gonna do. I am like 99% confident that Jules is just gonna go full dark, no stars. And he's gonna do whatever it takes to protect the rest of his family. That's gonna make him want to cling to Emma tighter, because he just lost someone he cares so much about. Losing Emma too would be, I think, too much for him. We saw Jules get a little dark at the end of Lady Midnight with his whole plot to like get Ansel Nightshade arrested, and we saw it a little bit as well in this book with his lack of reluctance to just shatter all the parabatai bonds. I mean, Emma's very like, that would be horrific, like you cannot do that, no circumstances can you do that. Jules doesn't really seem to care all that much about destroying everyone else's parabatai bonds. And that shows a little bit more of the darkness that we saw in Lady Midnight. And so now that he has just had something huge taken away from him, I feel like that might be the final straw, and he's just gonna snap and go, like I said, full dark, no stars. And I am worried about him. I am very, very worried about him. He's definitely going to need Emma to ground him, but unfortunately, they can't be together. Oh, next book's gonna be so dramatic. I'm so scared. But let's actually, moving on from the deaths, let's actually talk about Jules a little bit more, because I feel like we didn't get all that much from Jules besides, you know, his usual taking care of the kids and then his thing with being in love with Emma. I feel like that's really the only character development we got from him in this book, which is a little sad because I love Jules so much. But I also get that, you know, a lot of his mind and a lot of his time and sort of emotions are taken up by this whole thing with Emma right now. I'm glad that they've now communicated, because that's something that I was really, really, really torn about at the end of the last book and through the first like half of this book. On one hand, I am 100% for full transparency and communications in relationships. I think communication is one of the most important tenements of a relationship. I think that relationships thrive when people communicate and don't lie to each other. I think that it's 90% of the time when there are problems in a relationship, it can be solved or at least worked through by communicating. On one hand, I was like, Emma, just talk to him, tell him what Jem told you. But on the other hand, I could definitely see why she'd want to sort of protect Jules from himself. She might be a little worried that Jules might just kind of be like, oh, well, like we can beat the odds, or I don't know, do something stupid to try and fix it. So I get why she didn't tell him, but I'm not quite sure if I agree with it. So I'm so relieved that they finally talked. Unfortunately, it was after a fake relationship and a bunch of lies. Quickly, on the subject of the fake relationship, I just want to acknowledge how funny I find it that at the end of the last book, the big dramatic cliffhanger was Mark being like, why lie? I was like, oh my god, are like Emma and Mark actually gonna start legitimately dating? Not just fake dating, but like actually dating and like fall in love with each other? Mark already has too many love interests. What is going on? So I just really love that when Emma's sort of thinking back on that night, she was like, we tried kissing once, it was weird and kind of gross, so we're just gonna be friends. We tried. Nope, not gonna happen. I just found that really, really funny. I do love that Emma and Mark seem to be such good friends now, and that they find each other's presence really comforting. I am a little sad that after they broke up, we didn't get nearly as many scenes of them together. They didn't really interact all that much. But you know, they both had their own things going on. You know, Mark was dealing with Kieran and Christina, Emma was dealing with Jules, and so, you know, they're busy. They're busy. I get it. The Kieran, Mark, Christina love triangle, I'm trying to figure out what resolution I want. On one hand, I do feel like Christina and Mark are a better couple than Mark and Kieran. But on the other hand, I'm starting to notice how much Christina and Kieran are like getting close and trusting each other and becoming friends. And I can't help but think that the best solution for this love triangle is just polyamory. To be fair, the best solution for most love triangles are polyamory, but like for this one especially, I just want them to be like, we're all in love with each other and we're all dating each other and it's great, because I feel like it would work so well. But Cassie has been kind of stepping it up with the queer rep in these books. I mean, you have Mark and Helen, both of whom are bisexual, and the, at least hopefully, potential polyamory triangle. And then I want to say 90% sure that Kit is bisexual. I'll go into that a bit later because I'm going to talk about Kit and Ty in a second. And then you have Diana, who in this book we learned was trans. Like, I love that. She's had this kind of, I don't want to say like it's a secret, but she's had some mysterious reason why she doesn't want to leave the Institute for so long. I loved her discussing it with Gwyn, I think that's his name, her new boyfriend apparently, which is another one of the kind of funny plot points that I enjoyed. Him showing up and being very serious and like dramatic, but also finding time to just casually flirt with Diana. Anyway, I really liked her opening up about it to Gwyn. I liked the way that she sort of began it, saying it's not something that she's ashamed of, it's not something that she's embarrassed of, it's not some big, mysterious, dramatic secret that she's keeping. It's just that she knows that it would present a problem in acquiring the Institute, and she knows that other people on the council would make a big deal out of something that, it's not that she doesn't think it's a big deal, it's just that it's not a bad thing, and she doesn't think of it as a bad thing. She doesn't think of it as this horrific struggle that she went through. It's just a part of who she is. I think it's really interesting because you have the queer representation, which is something that the Shadowhunters Society and the Clave don't really have a great history with, but it is clear that they're making progress. You know, Alec and Magnus are basically married. Aline and Helen are married. And so they're making progress on the queer front. But I find it kind of an interesting plot point to explore the fact that they're still so incapable of understanding mental illness, because there are a number of characters in this who are mentally ill. Arthur is very explicitly mentally ill, and it's made clear that if that ever got out, he would be stripped of his post, he would be put in an insane asylum, he would be locked up, he would not be allowed contact with his family, like, bad things would happen. And then you have Ty, who has autism, and none of the Shadowhunters really talk about it because they don't know what that means. I think one of the really interesting scenes was Kit talking to Jules about Ty. I don't remember what Jules said that prompted this. It was something about Kit being friends with Ty, or Ty's behavior or something like that. And Kit's just like, well, yeah, he has autism, doesn't he? Jules' reaction was just, what? What is that? I've never heard of that before. Because Shadowhunters have absolutely no education or like awareness of mental illness. And Cassie said on Tumblr, I don't remember if it's said in the books, but Cassie said on Tumblr that if people found out about Ty, it's not that people would like find out, but sort of gave Ty a diagnosis, he would be locked up, because Shadowhunters are so horribly backwards when it comes to mental illness awareness and representation and treatment. But speaking of Kit and Ty, oh, they make me so happy. I love them. I loved all their scenes together. I loved Kit's developing relationship with Livy. I did find very entertaining the sort of tease of a love triangle that was pretty quickly shut down when Livy was like, kiss me. I was a little confused as to like what the point of that was later on, although it did kind of mostly seem like a way to establish that Kit's bi. From the end of Lady Midnight, I have been pretty dang sure that Kit and Ty are gonna get together, if only because how can you miss out on the amazing opportunity that a ship name like Kitty is? Honestly, if Cassie Clare didn't get them together, then I would be upset, if only because of the ship name and the missed opportunity. But it does look like they're gonna get together. The way that they are together, the way that Kit talks about him, the way that Ty is more comfortable around him. You know, Livy mentions that he doesn't wear his headphones as much around Kit because he doesn't want to miss anything that Kit's saying. Just the way that they interact with each other, they seem so perfect for each other, and they genuinely care about what each other is saying and doing and thinking. I think the moment that really sealed it for me was when Kit was waking up from his concussion, and in the sort of thinking about Ty, he mentions Ty's long, thick, lovely eyelashes, and I'm like, boy. I am very glad Livy, Ty, and Kit didn't become a love triangle. While Cassie Clare does write the best love triangles I've read, there's only so many a girl can take. I do love Livy, and I am very upset about that ending because like oh my god, Livia's the best and she's so genuinely sweet and kind, and like she and Ty were finally gonna become pair, but Ty was so freaked out and worried about her when she got hurt, and it was just, that was just foreshadowing. Oh my god, painful. It hurts so much. I am scared and kind of nervous as to what will happen sort of on the Zara front in the next book. Oh my god, I hate Zara so much. Fiery passion of 1,000 Burning Suns. Literally anytime she or Manuel or her dad opened their mouths, I wanted to just punch them in the face. I hate them and their stupid, bigoted, fascist, racist, speciesist, racist? I don't know. I don't know what the technical term would be for someone who's against downworlders, but I hate them. They're horrible and so mean and just bad. They're just bad people. I want to punch them in their stupid, smug faces. Also, Zara is such a Gilderoy Lockhart. Like, wow. I mean, obviously we knew she stole the credit for Malcolm's death, but everything else we learned about her, oh my god, she's basically evil Gilderoy Lockhart. I hate her so much. I don't think I've hated a character this passionately since Rico from the All From the Game series by Nora Sakovic, who is one of my all-time most hated characters, like up there with Dolores Umbridge. I hate her so much. She's awful. And I have faith that Cassie will eventually give us a happy ending, or at least a happy sort of like pause until we get to the Wicked Powers, but I am very scared as to what's going to happen in the next book. Partially because we have the Wicked Powers, so things don't have to be completely happily ever after. I'm a little scared that the series is gonna have some big cliffhanger that's not gonna be resolved until the Wicked Powers. Although, and Cassie said that this was something that she was gonna announce in the next few weeks, so we'll see on this. I do have my theory for who the main characters for the Wicked Powers are, and my theory is that the main characters are going to be Kit and Ty, mainly just because I love them, and she said that the Wicked Powers takes place like 2 or 3 years after the Dark Artifices, in which case they would be 17, 18, which is the perfect age for main characters. Overall, just so emotional about this book. I loved it, I cried, I laughed, I fell in love with these characters all over again. It was amazing, and I am so antsy for the next book, even though we're not gonna get it for another 2 years. It's okay. In between we are getting the first book in the Last Hours series, which, if you don't know, that's the series that's about Will and Tessa's children. So it's sort of the next generation of the Infernal Devices, and we're getting the first book in what has been lovingly dubbed the Malik series. That's an adult series that's focusing on Magnus and Alec, which I am very excited for. Like I said, I absolutely loved this book. I love almost anything Cassie writes. It's so good, ripped my hearts to shred. I was crying like 20 minutes after I woke up. I finished this book and I was just crying. So emotional, so good. Just, the series is amazing. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comments because it's so great and I have so many emotions and I just need to talk about them and talk about this series. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I love you guys and I will see you later.